and welcome to Crafternoons. Today we're going to be making macrame pot holders. So for this craft you'll need a few supplies. We have different types of string. Remember, if you're using yarn, that it tends to stretch a bit. We have our pots, and if you're going to be adding dirt later on, we have tape as well to cover up the hole in the bottom of the pots. A meter stick, scissors, and some paint to add a splash of color to our pots. So the first thing we need to do is select the size of pot we're going to be making a holder for. So what you want is your pot. You also want 32 inches of cord. So you're going to measure that using your meter stick. Flip to inches. And then, you're not done yet, so don't cut. So get to 32 inches, bring it up, measure the width of your pot, and then what you're going to need is another 30 inches of cord. So this one's just a touch too long, so I'm going to be trimming it off right here. Now I think the other cords are cut to length, but it's very quick to just line them all up and test that they're all the same length. And you can do it that way to cut the remainder of the cords that you need. There we go. Okay, so we have our 4 cords all lined up, all the same length, and we're going to fold it in half. Now if your cords have a bit of loose at the end, that's okay, we can trim that up later. And you're going to tie one big knot. Now try to make sure your strings are all lined up nicely so your knot looks good when you're hanging up your pot. Okay. We're not, and we're just going to tighten up our strings because you don't want those dropping down after you try and hang it up. You have no idea what length you need your pot to be. And then simply, and it doesn't matter in which order you do it, lay it out, and you're just going to create 2 more knots. So again, just 2 pieces of string, tie them in a knot, get the next piece, and tie a knot in a similar area. We're going to go through, tie our knots. Now you can make your plant holder longer if you're hanging it in a different area. But this is a nice length for porches or windowsills. So you've got your first set of knots, and holding it up you realize you need to make this one up a bit higher. And there we go, all roughly the same length. And now you're going to come down and you're going to do that again. But you're going to make sure not to tie the same strings together. So we're going to do this one first. That one. Trying to keep them roughly the same length. And then here. Then finally you're going to take these last 2 and tie them in a knot here. Gather all the strings together again and tie one big knot at the bottom, just like you did at the top. So this one's a bit tougher. Sometimes you have to go above the knot and then try and pull it down over the knots in order to get all your strings in the right place. So I'm just moving my knots up a bit because I had a bit of trouble tying the bottom strands together. So just bear with me. So now this final knot is what supports the pot. You're going to pull that tight. And there you go, just a few knots later, and you have a decorative pot holder to hang in your windowsill. You'll want to trim up these bottom cords to make them nice and even. Now a few other ideas is this one. I put some masking tape on and I painted it. So these supplies over here. And now I have a fun, brightly colored pot holder. And you can use different types of cordage as long as it can support the weight of your plant. Now another important thing to do before you add dirt is to cover up the hole in the bottom. So we're just going to take a bit of duct tape and cut a simple square. Might have to go a bit smaller for this pot. And cover it up. There we go. Another idea to add some fun flair to your macrame pot holder is to add beads. So I've already started stringing some beads on here, and I just have a craft needle to make it easier to pull the yarn through, and I just have one more bead to put on. And then we're going to go through the process just one more time. And then we will add our pot to it. Beads can make it a bit tougher to work with. Okay, here we go. So we've added some fun beads to that one. All done.